Hey Quentin, what's up? It's Mark. I'm going to show you how to update the width on these pages here. So let's see here. Let me open up this page here so we can take a look at it. Got the lander here, and so your form is spanning from left to right 100%. So we want to reduce that, right? So there's a responsivity option on each column, which is underneath this kind of pencil on the specific column. So I'm going to click on that pencil icon to edit the column settings, and then there's a responsive options tab here. So click on that. So you can see right here the width says that it is 1/1, so it's 100%, right? And so what you can do is you can change. This is kind of like the general width for all device types. So if I change it here, it'll change on desktop, it'll change on laptop and horizontal tablet, and then it will change on vertical tablet, and then mobile kind of defaults to one column. But I like to have different widths depending on the screen size. So for my larger, I can actually dictate a specific width for my larger screen size, which is going to be in this column here where it says width. So what I'll do is I normally like to do maybe 2/3. So I'll just look for the 2/3 here. You can see it right here, 2/3. Don't worry about these numbers on the left, one column up to 12 columns. Those can be a little confusing. So it's a lot easier just to either think about it in terms of like fractions, like 2/3, or they also have these options down here, which are kind of percentages, like 60%. And those percentages are helpful if you want to work in fifths, right? Which are not available with the default column options. So hopefully that's not too much. But what I want to do maybe is go for 2/3. So I'll click on 2/3 for this screen size type. And then maybe for a smaller screen size, we'll make it a little bit bigger and maybe do 5/6, right? So it actually takes up a little bit more room on a smaller screen and a little bit less room on a larger screen, if that makes sense. I'll leave it on tablet and I'll leave it on mobile. You can see where it says here, default value from width attribute. That means it's pointing up to this kind of general option up here. It's saying we're going to pull your width from your general option up here, which is set to 1/1, which is 100%. So for your vertical tablet, it's going to say we're going to use 100% for that vertical tablet size. If you want to squeeze that form down, not 100% left to right, you have to modify this general width, right? Because it's defaulting to the general width at the tablet size. So if you modify this to, let's say, 5/6, then the tablet will show at 5/6 as opposed to 100%. Generally for mobile, we just leave that alone because it's just going to default to one column, right? 100% on mobile. So we just don't really need to do much there. But so the tricky one is kind of like this tablet view. Like, do you want it to be 100%? Do you want it to be less than 100% left to right? You have to kind of figure out how you want it to look there. And that's going to be kind of where you start. Like, that's your basis, right? That's why it says width. And this is kind of the general kind of width. And then from there, once you figure out how big you want it to be on tablet, let's say I do want it to be 100%. I'll click on 1/1. So on tablet, I'll have it at 100%. On smaller laptop, I'll have it at 5/6. And then on larger computers, I'll have it at 2/3. So I'm going to click Save Changes now to my column responsive settings. And so you can see all of a sudden it squeezed everything over to the left, right? It squeezed everything. And so if I preview it now, take a quick look at the result of this. You can see it's created a much smaller form. So you can see this is the 100% form on, a larger computer size. Now it's saying this is going to be the size. So obviously the form looks better, but we're concerned that it's not centered. So we want to go ahead and center that form. So I'll show you how to do that. You're going to go back to your column settings. I'm going to click on the column, and then I'll go to responsive options. And then there's this little section here called offset, which means how much do you want to push things from left to right. So it's going to drop in some custom kind of pixels, I guess you could say, or whatever, or columns here on the left side of the form to push it to the center. So unfortunately, there's not like a simple option where you can just click, center this, make it in the middle. So you have to kind of dictate on a device by device basis uh, how you want to offset it so you can get it in the middle. So if you have a 2/3 width, and even I have to kind of just process of elimination on this sometimes because my brain doesn't really work really well with math. So let's see, 2/3 width. What I want to do is I want to push it over by what, a quarter to get it in the middle. So I'll push it over by a quarter. Let's save that and no, I can tell right here that it's not centered, right? So I don't even have to preview. So that's too much. I pushed it over too much. So I'm going to go click back on edit column and back to responsive options. And I'm going to reduce that to 1/6 and see if that does it. That did it. So I've got my centered column. Let's preview it for good measure. So yeah, now you can see that the column has been centered, and I'm able now to center this based on adding that additional 1/6 to the offset here, right here. So the other thing is too, you have to consider your tablet view because we're modifying the width on tablet. That means if we want this centered, we would have to add an offset to push it into the middle. So let's take a look here. I'm gonna try and squeeze this down a little bit and see if it shows me in tablet view how it's supposed to be. Does it do that? Okay, yeah. So here, so you can see the gap here, right, from left to right, and then from left to right on the left side. It's much smaller here on the left side. So we want to make this centered on this view here. So let's go and experiment with that real quick. I'm going to go back to my column, back to my responsive options, and under the smaller tablet view, choose a offset, which I'm just going to go with the smallest option, 1/12 offset, and try that. So we'll save changes. So unfortunately, it doesn't preview here. It only previews the largest screen size here in the backend editor. So I'm going to click preview changes. We're going to squeeze that bad boy back down. And that looks a lot better. So it looks centered here. It looks centered there. And it looks centered there. As we get into mobile size, it goes 100%. Right? So we're pretty stoked about all that. That seems to be working out quite nice for us. So I'm going to go ahead and just publish or update these modifications for you. And that's that. So that's done. Hopefully this helps. Thanks for watching.